So I've glued the hearth into place, and I'm now going to glue this piece of skirting into the corner. And remember I said about the floor had dropped down in that corner there. So I'm going to apply a line of glue underneath the skirting and then use a little bit of masking tape and see if I can just pull that floor up with it so that it sticks to the bottom of that bit of skirting. So let's give that a go. If not, I mean, it doesn't look brilliant, but it will just have to do, and something will be stood in that corner anyway, so we'll be able to hide it. Just applying glue to the piece of skirting. Remember to get it along the mitre join as well. And then I'll put a bit underneath as well. Okay, so let's get that into place. I'm also doing it so that it's straight with the piece that's already in position. Like that. Can't really see right into that corner. And then let's try lifting the floor with a piece of tape. So I'm just making the tape into a sort of little loop. Stick it down nice and firmly and then pull that up. And I'm sort of hoping I'm not just going to pull the tape off, but it's pulling the floor in that corner up onto the sticky skirting board. No, that didn't work. It really has gone down low there. I keep wanting to sort of put my hand underneath in the floor below and do it that way, but obviously the ceiling, it's not the ceiling that's dropped, it's just the actual floorboards. Not sure if that's working. It isn't, so I'm going to have to leave it like that, which is a shame. But I really didn't notice it until I was measuring up for this next lot of skirting. So let's get rid of that excess glue. Like I say, we're going to have our little corner shelf there, or sort of boat shelf, so you won't be able to see it. I could always put a bit of filler in as well to disguise it a little bit more, but actually looking at it on the camera, it doesn't look too bad there. Okay, so I've got these little bits here to put in as well. I hadn't actually tried this after painting. I should have tried it in place first just to make sure it still fitted, because the paint, as you know, can add a bit of thickness. That's going in there nice and tightly, like that. And skirting just really finishes it off, doesn't it? Makes it all look so much more solid. Piece there as well. And then just bring it around a bit. I've got this little bit here to do at the edge of the door. And then that really is this first floor shop area ready for moving into, which is exciting. I'm just so looking forward to making that first piece of furniture, and I think we will go for those shelves over on this left hand side, which are going to be quite a wide set of shelves, and we're going to have lots of cushions and bedding on them. Oops. Pushing the shop along there. Get rid of the excess glue again. Was there any in there? Push that right into place up against the door surround. Really love the white with this bluey grey colour. Such a nice combination. Okay, down to the shop floor. So again, I've already glued the hearth into place. So I'll start with that piece of skirting over in the corner. This little piece is a nice tight fit, so I'm going to use a cocktail stick to push that in. Let me get my paintbrush, something a little bit firmer. There. I think the cocktail stick was about to break. A little bit there. And then this final bit, I've cut it so that it's again comes out to the edge of the floor rather than the edge of the wall, because I thought if I just did it to the edge of the wall it's going to look as if it stops short. So there is quite a bit of an overhang. So I'm not sure whether to trim that off really, but then I suppose I should be consistent with what I've done with the coving above, so I'll leave it long. I can always trim it off in situ if I'm not happy with it overall. But again, the skirt on the other side will need to come out that far as well to reach the edge of the floor. That was one of the things I didn't really think about when I was pushing that floor all the way in. Okay, push that into place up against the edge of the door surround. And now as well, the ground floor is ready for moving in. And I think we're going to sort of mix up the furniture tutorial, so we won't just do the top floor or the first floor first and then the ground floor. We'll do sort of bits and pieces from each, and we'll mingle in furniture tutorials with the accessories. Everything is obviously going to be dressed and jam-packed with some lovely miniatures, so we'll mix it all in together. So after this sort of initial fixtures and fitting stage, it's now all going to be furniture and miniature tutorials from here on in, which I find very exciting. I hope you do as well. I think that's the case, isn't it, with, you know, Doll's House enthusiasts. This bit is enjoyable, but I think it's always the furniture and miniatures that are the really exciting part. Okay, so that's both of those rooms then now done, and I really like how they look. That sound you just heard was my chair squeaking. It wasn't my leg or anything. Let's get that out of there. So I've got to also do the hallways, and I want to do that before we start on any furniture or miniatures, so that the whole shop is sort of ready for moving in. And I will get this piece of pavement done outside, and I'm aware that we still need to do the signs on the sides, but we'll maybe come back to that at a later stage when we're sort of doing all the finishing touches to the outside. Just because, like I say, I can't wait to get on with the furniture and miniatures. But the next stage then is this pavement, and then I'll sand all of the fittings for the stairwells, and we'll get those into place and add the rope spindles to the stairs. So this piece of wood here, as you know, just slots underneath the shop, and it goes back a couple of inches, and then there's some wooden sort of blocks, probably, I don't know, that far back underneath, that hold that in place. Now I don't want to apply the paint to the bit that sits underneath, because I don't want to make it too thick so that it doesn't go back under nicely. So I'm getting that in place. So that's as far back now as I can get it, so that's nice and sitting nicely against those blocks underneath. So what I want to do now is take a nice sharp pencil and just go along that line along the front there. And then I'm going to put a line of masking tape behind that so that I don't get any paint onto that part of it that then needs to be glued into place underneath. I'll just put another couple of strips along that back part so I don't get any of the paint on it. And it's textured paint as well, so it's going to be quite thick, so that's why it won't fit back under properly if I don't tape it up like this. So have a think about that. The same, I suppose, if you're going to be using like a thick paper, you know, like a tile paper. It's just run out. I think I've got another roll somewhere. Along there. Tuck that all in. And now we can mix our paint. So for the pavement outside the shop or the sidewalk, I want to create a sort of mid-grey colour. So I've got here black, and then I've got a colour called Soothing White, which is a sort of pale grey, I suppose. And I don't want to use my white because I'm actually running out of white. I've only got half a pot of that white left that I use for the shop, so I'm going to have to order some more, but I'll just use this Soothing White up for now. So I've got here my paints. I've got a plastic pot, and it looks mucky, but it isn't. It's just stained with some old wood dye, so it is clean. And then I've got my sand, which is a really fine grained sand, and I'll be adding a little bit of that in to create a texture for the pavement rather than just having it a plain solid colour. And that looks really nice actually when you add the sand in. And then I've got a couple of old spoons here which I use for measuring, although what I'm actually going to do is put in some of the Soothing White and then just add little bits of the black at a time until I get to the grey colour that I want. And I've got my stirring stick, and I've got some kitchen towel because this can get a little bit messy. So I'm going to move the pavement out of the way for a moment, just so I don't get it all messed up, and start with my Soothing White. And you can see this is quite an old paint as well, because I don't really like the colour, so I haven't been using it. So it's gone a little bit gucky. It's quite thick as well, but that's quite nice. The texture's quite nice. It's just the colour I wasn't too keen on. So I'm just actually going to plop a bit of that in there without measuring it. Not quite sure how much I'm going to need. If you are going to be measuring, that's probably, I don't know, a couple of full teaspoons. And then I just want to add a bit of the black. So I'll just take, that's probably too much. Let's get rid of a bit of that. So take what, half a teaspoon there? Add that in. And of course if it goes too dark, you just put more white in, so it doesn't really matter. But I'm just going to do it a bit at a time until I get to the sort of grey that I'm looking for. I love that sort of marble effect before it all sort of mixes together, and that's actually not too bad a grey from the off, so that's quite nice. And a lady had suggested using paper or card like the flagstones on. So thank you for the suggestion, but I think here in the UK we do just see shopping streets on, you know, old pavements and things. So I sort of wanted to keep it more traditional. I'm sure there are places where the shops are sort of on lovely flagstone streets, probably places like York. But this is just sort of in a, you know, seaside town. Look at that, lumps of that white in there. What's that? Oh, it feels like a piece of cardboard or something. I'll just put that on there for now. Yeah, it's just where the paint is so old and it's just started to dry and crust around the top, you know, when you don't use them very often. So I quite like that colour, that sort of mid-grey, or cloudy grey, I suppose. I think I might need a little bit more though. and especially as it's got a lot of these old hard lumps in. So I'll try and keep those proportions correct and just mix a little bit more. Put a bit more of that one in. And then a little bit more of the black. So I'm back to that nice grey colour, and now I'm going to add the sand. And you don't want to add too much of this or your paint just turns into a big sort of dry blobby mess. So again, I'll use the teaspoon, and I've just got sort of a level teaspoon there. Sprinkle it in, and then you want to stir it in and just really judge the texture to see if you need any more. You want it to be evenly sort of dispersed as well amongst your paint, otherwise you'll just have blobby areas. Have that stirring, and there's still just some white coming through. And I can tell already as I'm stirring that that isn't enough. So I'm going to add probably that same amount again. I'll just put my finger in some paint. I think it's on the tablecloth there. So a little bit more of the sand. Again, just sprinkle that over nice and evenly. I feel like I'm doing a cooking show now. Yeah, that's getting more of a texture now, that's quite nice. I think I'm probably going to need one more half teaspoon. And of course you can buy these paints. I think they're called sandstone paints that already have the sand in them, just to save you the mixing, but you'd need to get a big tin, and they're quite expensive as well. I remember because I used it on the stonework of my doll's house, and it does give a really nice effect, but it is cheaper to do your own. And you can buy these little bags of sand. I can't remember where I got mine from now, but I'm sure if you just search on Google or eBay, Amazon, you know, anywhere like that, just for fine sand in the sort of craft section, I'm sure you would find something. I've got a couple of bags of this, which I bought for my beach themed living room, and I only ended up using a couple of tiny pinches of it. So I've got plenty left. I think we'll have to try and incorporate some sort of sandy projects into the shop. I have already got the idea of doing those little beach fine jars. Just little glass jars, a little bit of sand in the bottom, and then you can add shells or little bits of sponge, tiny little bits of driftwood, and it just makes a nice little beach finds jar. You can then make a lid either out of canvas or cork, tie a bit of string around, and they look really nice. As I said earlier, I can't wait to start with the accessories and the furniture. Okay, so it's probably difficult to show you the texture on camera. I don't know if you can sort of tell, but if I'm looking at that, I can just see all those little bits of sand in there now, and it's nice and evenly mixed through. So I'm happy with that now, so I'm going to go ahead and apply it. And I've got a larger brush here to apply it, and this is one of those brushes that I save for things like this and for darker coloured paint. And some of them, no matter how much you sort of clean them out, it does stain the bristles, and I then don't like to use that on lighter paint for fear of it sort of contaminating the paint. So let's have a go. And I also like to sort of keep stirring the paint in the pot as well, because the same as wood dye, the sort of sediment or the heavier part will float to the bottom, so you might find that all the sand sinks to the bottom, but you probably have to leave it sitting for quite a while for it to do that. So let's just load up the old brush and paint that on. And let me just move, I'm going to move the camera in a bit closer. I want to get along that side thinking about it, because obviously that will be visible, and along the front edge as well. I'm sort of going in the one direction, but as you can see, I'm dabbing it as well, because then you get lots of lovely different sort of shapes and textures. So let me zoom in and show you that. See how nice that looks. And with this as well, you just want to do the one coat. If you keep going over when it's damp, all you're going to do is take the sand off again. So you just want to sort of dab it on quite thickly so that you only have to go over the once. And it's quite enjoyable to do as well. It's one of those jobs where you haven't got to be, you know, totally precise. Just really sort of slap it on and enjoy it. And I've got the blind down in here. You can see on the window ledge there, it's really bright sunshine coming in. A lovely warm day. And Matt and I are going to sit outside for lunch in about 15 minutes time, so I'm really looking forward to that. Oh, when you don't go out, you start appreciating simple things, don't you? I'm just sort of tilting that up along the front edge to make sure that I get all the way along there, so that we can't see any of that plyboard once it's back in place. So I've gone all the way along there now, but can you see where it starts to dry quickly are the places where you haven't got a lot of sand? So what you can do then is go along and just dot a little bit more over those areas. Just sort of dab it on rather than brushing, so that you don't pull anything else off. And just fill up those little bits that start to dry, because they're drying because they're just paint without any sanding. And that's a good way of telling where you've got patchy areas. And I've got a lot of paint left as well, so I'm going to try and use some of it up rather than washing it all away. So you can even go over again, but just don't brush, so you're not brushing it off. You just need to do this dabbing. I think that looks quite nice. That's really getting that nice sort of pavement effect. Okay, so I've got a nice even coverage along there now, and I think I'm going to go and stand that outside to dry, and then I've got the awful task of washing out the brush and the pot. So I want to make a start now on the rope spindles for the stairs, and I'm just going to begin by using a longer pin just to poke through each of my drilled holes and get rid of the paint that's sort of seeped in there. So that's one of the pins all the way in, and that is a little bit too long. I don't want that much pin beyond the string, and there'll be a sort of double lot of string in there, which is only 1 millimetre. So I'm going to trim each pin in half, so I've got about that much poking out. So I need to trim away what's sticking out there, and that's roughly half. So I'm going to use my pliers to do that, and then I'll just put the trimmed pins into the lid. And I'm not going to measure these, I'm just going to do it by eye. So that bit can go. And let's just try that again in the hole. And I don't need to push them all the way in, so I can, if I cut some slightly longer and some shorter, I can just not poke it all the way in. Oops, I can't get hold of it. It took me quite a while to pick that one up. So that's about how much I want sticking out. So I'll go ahead and trim all of them to that length. And then I can just pop them in there to keep them safe. So let me see how many I need. Right, so I need 30. So I'll be back in a moment. So I've cut all 30 of my pins in half there, and now I'm going to fit one into each hole. They're quite difficult to handle with pliers just because they're so small, so I'm using my long nosed tweezers, and then I'm just using my little hammer just to bang them into the hole. But you know, whatever sort of technique works for you. If you're using a little hammer, don't sort of press them in too hard. Or don't bang them in too hard, I should say. Okay, so the pins are all now in place, and now I want to have a practice with the cord, and I've got two ideas in mind and I want to see which one looks nicer. Okay, so I've got my roll of cord here, and I've tied a knot, a loose knot in one end, and I'm going to start at the bottom of the stairs here and just pop that knot around the first nail and just pull it a little bit tighter. And then my first idea is that I come up like that, twist down to the second one, twist again and go up, and sort of in a figure eight, if you see what I'm doing there. There's a bit of a pull in the cord there, so I might have to get rid of that. And I actually think that looks quite nice. And then if I take that off and show you my other idea, there's that twist, so I'll cut above that and we'll start when we start again. My other idea was just to come down like that, and then another knot down here, so knot that off at the bottom there, and then do that all the way up, so we've got separate pieces of cord. But I actually think the figure eight design looks nicer, so I'm going to do that. But let me get rid of that piece of frayed cord first. And then I'm going to get a little bit of glue, and I want to put a little bit of glue along or around the base of each nail. Okay, so I start again by tying the loose knot. And don't worry if you've got a lot hanging down there, because we can trim that off. And then I won't do all of the nails at once because obviously the glue will dry before we get there, but maybe do, I don't know, 3 at the top and 3 at the bottom. So fix the knot on, pull it nice and tightly, and then go up and round. I'm not pulling too tightly because obviously I don't want to pull the pins out. And what I'll do as well is go around and hammer them in once the cord is round them. Like that, and then I need to put some more glue on. So hold it quite tight. I'm going to bring that little hammer in again and just hammer the nails down a bit more. And we can sort out the other side when we get there. That's a bit loose there, but I can tighten it up by tightening up that knot. So I'll leave that for now. So again, apply your glue. And I think I'll do a few more this time. I'll probably do the next 5. And then go round again. Was that right? Yeah. Keeping it nice and taut. I've got another bit of a knot there, but I think I'm going to have to keep unwinding it and checking. I think I might just leave that in there. done something wrong there. I think I started the wrong way. Yeah, it goes round like that. So make sure you're following the same pattern. So I go round from the left and then round to the right. And we'll have a look at the other side in a moment. If the nails are sticking out a little bit too much, we might need to put a little bit of wood on the back there. But I'll keep going now right up to the top while I'm sort of holding it all in place. Okay, and then I can knot it off at the top there. So let me just knock the nails down. And then I'm going to snip that cord off there. And I can actually take it off of there and tie the little knot. And then pull that tight around that top nail. Pull it nice and tight. Sorry, I was off camera there. So I just sort of knotted that around that top peg. I'm trying to pull it really tight as well. And then you can put a little bit more glue on under those knots. Get it in there, work it in under the knot there, and knot that in again. And the same with that one. I'm going to hammer that in as well. And then you can trim off the cord at the top and bottom. And use a cocktail stick to tidy up your glue around your little pegs. I think that looks quite good. So having a look here at the back, I've got a few of the pins overhanging, and I've used my cobbler's snips to snip off the longer ones, but they are still sort of sticking out, probably about, well, under 1/2 millimetre I would say, and the same along the top. So there's just one sticking out at the top there that I can't quite get hold of. So I'm going to have to leave that one. But what I've done down here is I've cut a piece of balsa wood that fits along over the pins, and I'm using balsa because then I can push the pins into the balsa. It's nice and soft, so they'll easily go in there. So I'm going to attach that and then paint it, and that will look okay from the front of the stairs. So to avoid that, you'll need to cut the pins to the exact size. So cut them a little bit shorter than half. And the other thing you want to do is make sure, if you're putting a strip on the back like that, is that your stairs still fit on. And I already double checked mine, and I have still got room there for the stairs. You don't want to go sticking a strip on and then find that you've covered up the stair area. So I think that strip will look okay. The only other thing would be to completely dismantle this now and chop the pins even shorter, but I don't really want to do that at this stage. But otherwise I am pleased with that. I think that's really different. So I'll get that piece of wood stuck on the back of there and give that a coat of paint, and then I want to construct the next staircase and do the same thing again. So I've built the second lot of stairs here, and they're now drying, and I haven't painted that strip on the back of there yet, just because I'll wait until I've done this one and then do all of that together. But what I am going to do now is attach the coving into the stairwells. Okay, so that's the coving fitted in the top landing there, and then I fitted that strip of coving in the entrance hall there, and also that little strip alongside the sort of piece of floor there. And I think what I'll do is once the stairs are complete, I'll just sort of put them in, just sort of dry fit them, and then I can cut the skirting for this little landing, and also around the areas of the entrance hall, because we'll probably still be able to see into that corner, so we'll still want a piece coming along there, and then cut at an angle where the stairs start. Piece along here, obviously, and I also want to put a piece along here, and then we'll have the safety rail going across there, and then I'll have another piece here. So still a lot of sort of little pieces to cut, and then I can fit the stairs, and then it will be a question of going around again with the filler, filling in all of these little gaps. I wasn't very happy with this piece of coving. It's not square, so it was a choice of either sticking it to the ceiling or to the wall, and I chose to stick it to the ceiling because you don't notice the gap underneath as much, and that would have taken a lot of filler to fill the sort of ceiling gap. So I'll just sort of fill it all in here. But somebody over on YouTube, a gentleman, and I forget his name now, but he had said when you're fitting the coving, if you bevel along that corner there, bevel it flat, then you don't get this problem. And I just forgot that until I was sort of sat here pressing it into place for about 10 minutes. And then I remembered what he'd said. And of course then it was too late. But that's a good little tip if you have this sort of coving that doesn't sit squarely. It wasn't too bad on that bottom bit, so it must have just been a warped piece of coving. Or again, maybe that's not square, but I think it's a piece of warped coving. So that's that. And I just went into the garden and brought in the pavement, and that's now completely dry. And that's turned out a really lovely colour as well. That will contrast nicely with the brickwork and with the lovely blue on the front of the shop. So let's get the tape off, and then I can actually glue this into place. And I'm just going to apply glue to the back of this, and then just let the shop weigh it down really. So let it sort of stick itself into place. And it dried in no time at all out there in that lovely sun today. And I must admit I went back out again at about 4 o'clock with a cup of tea and sat back out there. It's just so nice. Final piece there, so I've got a lovely straight line there. So I'll apply the glue behind that area, and then I can just put it into place, and the house will, the shop will weigh down on it and glue it into place. Oops, missed the bin. So I'm going to put the glue directly onto the wood there. This nozzle's getting blocked again. To put too much on there. And I'll just get a scraper. Spread that out. And I just want to put a bit of glue at each end as well, and this is where those little stops are underneath, so they'll stick to those. And I'm just guessing at the width really is about that. That end as well. Okay, so I'll lift the shop up now and slide that under. Still need to go back that way because the shop's quite heavy now with all the fittings in. I can't just slide it about like I used to. There, so that's sitting right in the middle now. I'm trying to get behind and really push it against those stops under there. I'm just going to press down on it a bit. The weight, I mean it is touching it, so the weight of the shop will, you know, weigh it down. Yeah, I really like that colouring actually, and when the doors open it goes really nicely with the interior colours as well. So I'll just go along that edge with a cocktail stick, get rid of that glue. So I want to try that now with the door in place and see how that looks. Looks good, doesn't it? Really pleased with that. So I've cut here the skirting for the back of the entrance hall and the little landing area as well. And then if I take you over to my messy desk, I've added the rope spindles to the second staircase, and the stairs are ready as well. And I've sort of dry fitted this second set of stairs into place, but I'm not sure yet how I'm going to do the safety rail across here, because I want the safety rail to sit on the floor, but obviously the top banister rail of the stairs is level sort of in front of the floor, so it sticks up like that, and I want obviously the safety rail to be stuck to the floor. So I may have to put in a second rail or put a strip in down here and do it so it sits back there. But my plan is I'll get the back lot of skirting board painted and fitted, then I can fit the stairs, and then I'll have more of an idea of what I need to do to create that safety rail. And then also I can do the bit of coving to come along here once this stair is in place, and I'll have more of an idea of what I need to cut for there. So it feels a little bit bitty at the moment because I'm sort of doing part of a job and then having to come back and sort of finish it off, but I can't think of another way of, or I can't sort of think how to do it until those stairs are in place. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit. It's the end of quite a long and busy day. So I'll get those pieces of skirting painted, fitted, and then get the stairs in place, and then do the next bits. So I'll see you in a bit.